Hi guys, and welcome back to Car Focus. Now, I'm sure you can see behind us, today this video is all about the Ford Mustang Mach E. Now, this is my first experience with an EV, an electric vehicle. I've never had one on the channel before. I've only driven one once briefly, and I've been in the passenger seat of a Tesla. But other than that, this is a complete first for me. So I'm quite excited about getting this on the channel, just talking about my experience with an EV, what it's like to kind of live with, what it's like to drive, charging anxiety, what it's like to get this thing charged up at a charging station, and just look around the car and talk about it. This video, I'm trying to go for kind of like a vibe as if you're visiting your dealership, you're going to have a look around the car, and then we're going to take it for a test drive. So kind of like a virtual tour for you guys, and then a test drive, and I'll try and cover exactly what it's like for kind of a normal person like myself to kind of live with. So we'll talk a little bit about the car and we'll look around it in a second. This particular version that we've got here is the extended range all-wheel drive. So other than the GT, which sits right at the top of the food chain, this is the next best thing. In terms of price, this particular model here, this is just over £60,000. So it is quite pricey. The Mach E does start lower in the low 40s, but that'll be for a rear-wheel drive standard range version. I'd personally, having driven both, I much prefer this one. So if you can kind of raise your budget to 60,000, I know it's quite expensive, this is the one to go for. I think the GT is up into near £70,000. That is very expensive, albeit bonkers fast, but yeah. So what do you get for your money? So this particular car, it's a dual motor. It's got 351 brake horsepower, 580 newton meters of torque. So it's pretty punchy. It will do 0 to 60 in about 5.8 seconds. If you do that on a slight roll, it goes down to like 5.1. You've got to remember that the power is instant. There's no gear change, there's no lag, there's no kick down, there's nothing. This thing, when you put your foot on the accelerator, it just goes. So it is very, very quick. So yeah, that's the kind of basic fundamentals in terms of performance and stats. We'll have a look around the car now, and I'll talk a bit more about external features. We'll have a look inside the car, and then we'll go for a test drive. And we're going to do a 0 to 60 as well. We'll do a 0 to 60 run and see exactly how fast it is. But let's flip this camera around, have a walk around, we'll jump inside, and then we'll go for a drive. Right guys, let's have a little walk around of this Mustang Mach E all-wheel drive extended range. So we'll start at the front. So the front of the car looks quite aggressive. We've got these nice lines in the bonnet. It all flows pretty nicely. It's been designed very well, I think, from the front. It looks nice. Don't have a traditional grille because obviously you don't need the cooling, so we've got a color-coded front grille with the Mustang pony badge in the middle there. Does it deserve to wear that? A lot of people don't seem to think so, but I'll let you make your mind up on that one. Let us know in the comments if you think this deserves to wear that badge or not. We've got gloss black accents on around the grille there. We've got a gloss black splitter, and then just your standard kind of matte black plastic around there. I don't know why that isn't gloss. Bit of a strange decision there. We've got these nice aggressive looking LED adaptive headlights which work really well. They bend the light around oncoming vehicles so you don't blind anybody when the auto high beam function is on. It's a good system. Just move around to the side of the car now. By the way, the bonnet does open. There is a storage area in there. I'll cut some shots of that over the top now. It's not a big storage area, so I wouldn't rely on it too much, but if you want to store your charging cables or maybe a couple of bags or something, it's adequate for that, but it's not going to fit a suitcase or anything like that in there. So yeah, we've got parking sensors front and rear. We've got cameras all the way around the car. There's a camera in the middle there. I'll just quickly show you. Just one there. And then we've got cameras on the mirrors as well. So basically, when you engage reverse, you will get a nice bird's eye 360 view projected around you, so you don't drive into anything. If you do drive into anything, you're quite silly because you've got a view all the way around the car. With this model, we get a nice body kit. So we've got side skirts and arches in gloss black. Orange reflector there. We also get these 19-inch diamond cut alloys with Bridgestone tyres and red brake calipers, again on this top of the line normal Mustang model, because there is a GT which sits above this, which is quite a bit more expensive. This here is something you're going to get very familiar with. This is where you plug in your charger. So you essentially plug in the charger there, and then you'll get a status bar with these lights here, which will indicate how much the car is charged. Then when you want to disengage the charger, press that button, pull the charger out, and jobs are good. So yeah, side profile of the car is kind of, I'll try and get back a bit so you can see it all. It's kind of coupe meets SUV. It's a little bit confused, but it is quite a nice looking side profile. I do like the lines, they just flow very nicely. And then you've got these big old arches here at the back, which are reminiscent of the normal Mustang. Door handles, we have a button which you press, the door will pop open, grab hold of that, and then you can open her up. Funnily enough, on the back we just have the button, we don't have the handle, so you have to get your hands on the actual door, get your fingerprints on the door to open up the back. Tiny little rear quarter window there. Nice shark fin aerial. Now what they have done is they've actually colour coded the car quite smartly, so it makes the car look lower than it is at the back. So you've got the black roof, which obviously sits higher than the painted section there, so it does give it that more sort of low down GT kind of car look about it. Now if we move round to the back, this is where it becomes a little bit, I don't know, I'm a bit unsure about the back. It just doesn't look quite right, the way it comes down and it's flat. I don't know, it's personal preference though, but for me, yeah, it just looks a bit odd. It's not too bad from the very back of the car, from here it's not too bad. And we've got a gloss black rear bumper there with parking sensors again, and then a camera in there above the controversial pony badge. So yeah, these rear lights as well, they're LED, they've got sequential indicators front and rear. These are obviously inspired by the original Mustang, or the current petrol Mustang, should I say, and they do look really smart at night. You can see that there. So we'll open up the electric tailgate. Now the boot here, this is one of the weak points of the car. It's not the biggest, it's about 400 litres. Now I'll cut an image over of me trying to get my pram in, my son's pram, the way we put it in our estate, and it doesn't fit. The wheels are hanging over the edge here, so you'd have to fold the seats down, but then why would you have a pram in the back with the seats folded down? Because where are you going to put your child? But it will go in widthways, but then obviously it compromises the rest of the boot. So yeah, for a car of this size, of this kind of class, the boot needs to be bigger. You can lift this up. There's a bit more storage room under there, but we've got all the charging gubbins and stuff under here. You're not really going to fit too much more underneath there. So yeah, that is one of the downsides to this car already. So now we'll take a look inside the car. We'll start off in the back, then we'll move into the front. But the inside of this car is surprisingly roomy. Really spacious in the back, and to make it feel even more spacious, this model comes with a full pan roof, which is a really nice touch. Because the roof lining in here is black, the seats are black, pretty much everything is black, it just makes the car feel a lot more airy and less claustrophobic. Now if you're carrying kids around, we've got ISOFIX points on both sides, which are nicely tucked away. We've got these little leather openings here, which is where you can slot your ISOFIX points from your car seat. We have got a centre armrest with two generous cup holders for your coffees. And then obviously these seats will fold forward, giving you, I think it's over 1,000 litres of combined boot space, rather than just your 400 in the boot itself. We've got B&O sound system in this car all round, so you've got the B&O speakers there. The materials in this car are quite good. So we've got soft touch leather here, soft touch plastics up here, and it just feels like a nice quality interior, and for the price point, so it should be. We've got a flat floor, so there's no transmission tunnel getting in the way. So there's plenty of leg room down here, and overall the back of the car is more than enough in terms of space. Down here we've got two heaters. Unfortunately it doesn't have the ability to control the temperature, it's just on or off. We've got USB lightning ports there as well, which is handy. And we've got some storage cubbies there. Also, each passenger has their own reading light on both sides of the car. So yeah, the back of the car is a nice and adequate place to be. Now moving to the front of the car. So here, we've actually got numbers here, so you can actually code a code to put into the car to get in if you don't have your key. We've got the buttons. So inside the driver's seat of the car, I'll try and do this as if you were sat in here yourself. So the first thing we notice is this lovely steering wheel. Now, it's nothing too busy. It's nice and thick. It's a good quality leather, and it just feels good in the hand. So no complaints there with the steering wheel. You've got your Mustang badge in the middle there. Obviously remind you of its, I would say heritage, but it doesn't have the Mustang heritage, but just to remind you that you're in a Mustang Mach E. Buttons on the steering wheel, you've got volume here, you've got voice control, hang up the phone and skip the tracks there. And on this side, you've got your adaptive cruise control activation button, your adaptive cruise control adjustment button, lane assist, your speed limiter, and then obviously adjusting the speed when your cruise control is engaged. Just normal stalks here for wipers, indicators, etc. Down here we've got our auto lights function, so your auto high beam, you can adjust the brightness here of the display in the car. And then we've got our max aircon setting, so if you want to quick demist the window, you press that. Not sure why it's hidden down there, but it is there if you need it. We've got a little central display here. So this is your instrument cluster. Well, what used to be the instrument cluster. Obviously you don't have a rev counter, you don't have temperature gauges and stuff. So limited information here. So you just have your range in miles and your battery percentage, temperature. You've got the car there. So when you're using your various safety features, the information will be displayed on there. Your speed, your sign recognition system, and which gear you're in, and then the vehicle mileage. The dashboard itself is quite a nice clean design. Again, good quality materials used. You've got some faux carbon there, your start buttons there. Soft touch, there's nothing too cheap and nasty in here. With the B&O system, we get a sound bar here as well, and a speaker in the middle. Very good sounding system, lots of speakers dotted around the car. We've got your main infotainment system here, which is Android Auto, Apple CarPlay wireless. So you don't need to have your phone plugged in. It will just come up once you've configured it via the system. We've got a comprehensive setting menu here. There's loads of settings to do with the car. There's all sorts you can customize. We've got 3 main drive modes here: Whisper, Active and Untamed. Whisper is if you just want to quietly cruise around. Active is a mixture of both. And then Untamed is full on maximum response, and it will pump in a bit of a V8 noise into the cabin as well, which you can turn off. So yeah, lots of settings with the car. Probably recommend that you spend a good 20-25 minutes just familiarizing yourself with those. And once you've done that, it's a very easy system to use. You've got your temperature control here, your climate control, and a physical volume button there if you just want to quickly adjust the volume. But overall, a very simple design. I mean, it is quite a big screen. It does maybe look a little bit out of place on there, but I think it's quite good. It's, like I say, it's easy to use and it hasn't really bothered me at all. So moving around the front of the car, down here we've got a huge storage area, and we've got USB and lightning ports again. This is for your phone, so it's a wireless charging pad, so you put your phone on there and it will charge wirelessly. Another storage bit here, and then because the car has a flat floor, we've also got another storage area beneath, which is quite large and very handy. 2 cup holders here for your bottles, no problems with those at all. We'll fit a nice coffee cup in there or whatever you want to put in there. We've got our drive selector knob here, e-handbrake, parking pilot, and we've got our hazards there. This is all trimmed in a nice leather with red stitching as well. A leather center armrest, which comes up to reveal another storage area, which slides open to reveal an even bigger storage area. This is really handy, very deep, so lots of place for storage. These seats here, excuse my bag, nice and comfortable, supportive, air cooled and heated as well. Just feel nice and soft and supple, good quality leather, no complaints whatsoever. Up here we've got a couple of reading lights. This has ambient lighting in the car as well. You can change the color of all that. and it also changes color when you change the drive modes on the screen here. We've got a little section there for your glasses, and some lights on the mirrors as well if you want to do your hair or something if it's dark. So yeah guys, that is the inside of the car. This car's pretty much decked out in terms of mod cons. I quite like, I mentioned the reversing camera earlier on, as you can see just there. So obviously you get your 360 view there and a nice big view at the back. You can also view the front of the car as well. If we just do, so that's the rear, you've got a wide angle view there which you can use. You can zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, so quite a good little feature there. And like I say, if you end up running into something, you need to ask yourself what you've been doing, because you can see everything on here. Guys, before we actually start driving the car, I quickly want to touch upon range, as I'm currently sat at a Shell recharge fast charging station. Now, you need a home charger really to run an EV how you'd like to. If you don't have a charger at home, you're going to find yourself every couple of days stopping at these fast chargers. Now, this particular one isn't cheap. It's 53 pence per kilowatt hour, which is quite expensive. Basically, it will fill up 80% for you. When it gets to 80%, it will all of a sudden it will go extremely slowly. So we're currently averaging around 100 kilowatt charge at the moment. When it gets to 80%, it will drop right down to about 10 or something like that, which is really slow. So it only goes up to 80%, and 80% basically won't get you all that far if you're not charging at home. So I've worked out, I mean, this car's supposed to be 335 mile range. I've worked out that I'm doing roughly 258 miles. Now, yeah, it's not great, but these cars are probably tested in environments where they're driven really slowly. They're not really using much of the infotainment. So normal day-to-day driving, I'm doing about 258 miles. Now, I've been going from 30% up to 80%, so that's 50% charge, and that has cost me £25. So it's not the cheapest way of doing it. So basically, if you want to run an EV, you need to get yourself a home charger, a 7 kilowatt hour charger or something like that. I think they're about £700 from Ford, and then you have to obviously pay for the fitting. And then literally when you get home, you plug it in, the car charges overnight, you hop in it the next day, and you've got a full charge, and you won't need to stop at these recharge stations unless you are doing a long journey. And then you can obviously plan those in. You can use the Ford Pass app, and it will show you where the chargers are, how many are available, and the price of them as well. So you can plan a journey ahead. It's all on a map as well, and you can access it from the infotainment in here as well as the app. So not the end of the world, but just make sure that you consider that, you factor the price of a home charger in when you're thinking about buying an EV. Very easy to charge as well. It's all pretty self-explanatory. There are various adapters that come with the car, but this is a DC charger here. It's the CCS port, so it literally, you just undo the flap in the car, take that out of its holder, plug it into the side of the car, scan your debit card, pay, and then you just sit here and wait for it to charge. And it's taken about 35 minutes to get from 30% to 80%. So grab yourself a coffee, just sit back and relax, and then before you know it, you'll be back out on the road. Anyway, let's get to the 0 to 60 time. I want to see how fast this is, and then we'll head out for a drive and we'll talk about what it's actually like on the road. Right guys, let's line up for our 0 to 60. So we'll quickly pop the car in its most aggressive mode, which is untamed. Now I know this car is pretty quick, but I'm not too sure exactly what it's going to pull off here. It's meant to be 5.8 from a standing start, and they say 5.1 from a slight roll. So we'll see. We'll get the brake on auto hold there, and we'll just floor it. So 1, 2, 3, go. Very quick, feels quick. Oh, not bad at all. A 5.68, so quicker than the stated book time of 5.8. We'll just do one more. We'll just turn around and do one more. I don't think it's really going to make any difference, because with this car, it's a case of literally just flooring it and off it goes. Right, let's have one more go. And that's even faster. That's 5.37 seconds. So we're close to sub 5 seconds. I don't know if it's going to keep getting faster, but I think that'll do. But 5.37 seconds, guys. Mustang Mach E. Quick car. So, behind the wheel, driving this car. What is it like to drive? So, first impressions when you immediately get in this car. It's very spacious inside. I've got a lot of headroom. Loving the pan roof as well, just makes it a lot more airy. These seats, very comfortable, nice, supple, soft leather. Very adjustable as well. You've got 3 memory settings and they're electrically adjustable, they're heated. No problems at all with back pain or anything like that. And visibility is great. You've got a nice sort of high position looking down at the road as it is an SUV. What I will say about the seats though is when you are kind of speeding things up a little bit and you want to try and put this Mach E through its paces, they could do with a little bit more bolstering. I do find that I slide around a little bit in these seats and I kind of feel like I'm almost going to fall out of them. So maybe a little bit more bolstering there just to hold you in would be a little bit nicer. The steering wheel, very nice feel to it when you're driving. In terms of feedback, I mean, it's an electric car, so the steering's obviously electric, but in terms of feedback, there isn't really much feedback through the steering wheel. But you turn it left, the car goes left, you turn it right, the car goes right. But if you want to really engage in kind of steering feel, then this isn't really the car for you. But this car is super smooth. Now, this is kind of the EV kind of style. Electric vehicles are just super smooth, and this is what really impresses me. Everything about it is effortless. So as a car you want to drive day to day, I don't think you can beat an EV. The power delivery of this thing, it's literally, the response is there immediately. It's super fast, off the line, as we've just seen with the 0 to 60s. The mid-range speed of this, it just makes driving an absolute doddle. And due to the fact we have no engine, it's also very, very quiet. Now you can have a few synthesized sounds pumped into the cabin through the speakers, but I have those turned off because I like the tranquility of the drive, it just being nice and smooth. Put your music on, and I really don't miss having a combustion engine. So I think as a car you want to drive every day in comfort, have the speed on tap. I don't think you can beat an EV, guys. Compared to an automatic gearbox where it's hunting for gears, it's, there's a delay when you pull off at a roundabout, or with a manual when you're finding the gears yourself. Seriously, coming from a petrol head, you can't beat one of these for day-to-day comfort. I would still have a petrol engine car, don't get me wrong, because I do love the engagement you get when you go out for a nice Sunday drive. But this car, in terms of its driving feel, is really good. Now, it's not all perfect because the car does have a couple of issues, should I say. Now, the main one that I noticed when I started driving this car is actually the ride. So this car is over 2 tons and you can feel it in the way it rides over bumps. Now, I noticed it mainly on dual carriageway. So on a dual carriageway, the car is, I wouldn't say it's fidgety, but it bounces over the bumps. It almost feels like if you load your family car up with loads of weight, there's a similar kind of sensation. And I would say if you get a bit travel sick as a passenger, it's not going to be the nicest sensation. And for a car like this, which is an SUV and is designed to, carry the family around in and stuff, I think the ride needs to be better. Something needs to be revised, it needs to be smoother, and that needs to be ironed out. Now, granted, I have got used to the ride now, been driving this for a week, and I'm used to the ride, and maybe I could live with it, but I think if you're having passengers in and out of the car, I think for their sake it would need changing. So that's one bad thing about the car. Now, there's not really too many other bad things to say about it. In terms of the way it stops, the brakes are massive on this thing, and because of the extra weight, it needs to stop well, and it really does. You slam on the brakes and it really does react, and it pulls the car to a nice standstill. The brakes are a little bit odd in that initially there's not much happens, and then you get to a certain stage where all of a sudden the brakes will come on. So if you're kind of in traffic and you're going slowly, you may find yourself a bit like this until you get used to it. But overall, the brakes are really good. Now, another positive thing about the car is the way it handles. Now, we have mentioned the weight and that it does weigh 2 tons, but the way you can chuck this thing down a road is actually quite impressive. And again, it is relatively effortless. The power accelerating out of corners is just immediate, and it makes bombing down a nice little back road actually quite pleasurable. You can really get down a twisty road at some serious pace. And the car, you'd expect it to kind of have a lot of body roll, but it doesn't really. It's kind of strange. You can feel the weight through the corners, but it deals with it nicely. There's plenty of grip on offer. It does just tuck in and go, and it almost feels a little bit playful. I guess it's typical Ford really in the way they design their chassis of their vehicles, but no, impressive. So yeah guys, I don't really have too many bad things to say about it. I guess the main thing is this car worth £60,000? Now for me personally, the car doesn't wow me enough to warrant spending £60,000 on it. It's a very nice car, as I say, it's smooth, it's quiet, it drives beautifully, but it's just missing something that would make me want to fork out £60,000. So for me personally, I'm going to say it's not worth that money. I would probably rather go for a fast diesel, like a 335D, or a 3-litre diesel, which can return sort of 45, 50 miles to the gallon, is equally as fast as if not faster, has a bigger boot, and yeah. But if you do want to get into the EV market, it's going to be mixed opinions really. I'd probably go for maybe something a bit cheaper, but there are people out there that would happily spend £60,000 on this. It does sit up in the premium end of the market, particularly with Fords. It is the high end of the Ford market in terms of pricing. There's not really much more expensive. So yeah. So to summarise guys, probably wouldn't buy this myself, but I've enjoyed my time with it. It's pretty much converted me into the EV ethos, and I get it now. Range isn't much of an issue if you're charging at home. You can live with these cars day to day, but you just need to have the personal things in place. Not everybody can run one of these, but a lot of people can. So yeah, I appreciate the car for what it is. It's been good fun to drive, really interesting to get to know it. And yeah guys, that is it. So I hope you're not too offended by me having this car on the channel. I just thought it would be a nice car to review and something a little bit different. And as they say, it is the future, or is it? Anyway guys, until the next video, as always, take care and I shall see you soon.